shot and wounded. This is 25% higher than other high-income nations. Gun violence has increased during the pandemic. Early FBI data shows a 25% increase in homicides in 2020. And of course, we've had the tragedies in Georgia and more recently, Colorado. We often hear the argument that gun laws don't work, criminals don't follow the law, and gun laws just punish law-abiding citizens. That is a dangerous and inaccurate oversimplification of the issue. And the fact is the states with strongest gun laws have less gun violence. The Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence rates Hawaii as having the 4th strongest gun laws in the country. At the same time, we have the 4th lowest gun death rate according to 2019 numbers from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In 2017, we had the lowest gun death rate in the nation. This is for Ms. Thomas. Could you talk again about the relationship between a jurisdiction's strong gun laws and the rate of violence for that area? And then how do you respond to the argument that criminals don't follow the law, gun safety laws, and therefore, I guess the argument is, we don't need any of these kinds of proposals that law-abiding citizens are impacted by.
Thank you for that question. I'll just start by saying that states with the strongest gun laws have the lowest gun death rates, and states with the weakest gun laws have some of the highest gun death rates in the country. And that is in the numbers. There's nothing that you can say to contradict that if you look at exactly the information you're talking about, CDC statistics and the laws that are in place. In states where there's more guns and weaker gun laws, more gun death. So I think we start with that. To your question of responding to this statement that the criminals aren't going to follow the laws, so why have any laws? It is sort of a specious argument because it speaks to the fact that we must have laws to address these problems, and that does have an impact. As I just mentioned, strong gun laws in states like New York, California, and Hawaii have led to far lower gun death rates. I would also point to the fact that 80% of guns used in crime are acquired without a background check. 96% of individuals currently incarcerated for gun crimes acquired those guns without a background check. So we know that those intent on doing harm are going through the system, which enables them to buy guns without a background check, and makes it so important that we begin by passing a universal background check law that requires background checks on all gun sales. It levels the playing field. So regardless of where you're buying your gun, online, at a gun store, from a private seller, that all of those sales go through a background check and enable us to much better monitor the system of gun transfers and keep guns out of the hands of those that would do harm with them. So we fully support many of the measures that are before this chamber and before this body. We believe that there's a lot of steps that can be taken to reduce gun violence in America, and we know that those measures work because, as you mentioned, the states where we are passing these measures have far lower gun death rates. So we can do this as a country, and we can do better, and our country deserves better.
Thank you. Again, for Ms. Thomas, almost 20 years ago, the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act of 2005 was enacted, granting the gun industry broad, almost total immunity from civil liability. Can you talk about the effect of making gun manufacturers and sellers immune from civil litigation or civil liability? And do you believe that if the gun industry did not enjoy this immunity, there would be less gun violence victims in our country?
No other industry in this country enjoys the kind of protection that the gun industry enjoys. Immunity from civil liability, not being subject to the same consumer protection service laws that the rest of our industries are subject to. And this has led to a situation where victims have no justice. They never get their day in court. There's no motivation for the industry to voluntarily look at safer measures for their products. And it's created a situation where the normal systems that we use to create better products, to create more accountability, are simply not in place when it comes to guns. If you look at cars as an analogy, car gun car deaths have reduced by almost 80% in the last 50 years. And part of that has been because there have been voluntary measures and measures pushed through litigation to ensure that cars are as safe as possible. And we're doing everything we can to prevent car injury and car death. And we need to be doing the same thing with gun violence. And that applies to the measures before the Senate and in the country, as well as through consumer protection laws. So I do believe that removing that liability, ensuring justice in the court system, would ensure that we make progress on gun violence reduction.
And it's true that, for example, in the private product liability litigation, that it is because of civil liability that these manufacturers of these products face that leads to improved and safer products. And I think it attests to the strength of the gun lobby that we have not been able to impose this kind of responsibility or liability on the gun industry. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Senator